Hello, everyone, and welcome to another free YouTube preview for this Sunday show at the 229. We are hot, emphasis on hot, off the heels of No Escape 2023. We saw a surprise return in Dan Maloney and a controversial ending to the Southside Women's Championship match. So we are about to preview this Sunday show. As always, I'm joined by Andy Quilden. Andy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks, Gio. And yeah, I'm glad it seems to be getting a bit. Well, I'm personally not glad, but I think the competitors in Revolution Pro Wrestling will be very glad that it's starting to cool down a little bit outside the ring. But we can guarantee you that this Sunday the action's going to be hot, hot, hot inside it, because it is super fight season, if you will, as all roads lead to Sunday, July 9th, 1 week on Sunday's Epic Encounter. And then, of course, on from there to our biggest show ever, that 11-year anniversary show at the Copper Box. But listen, do not sleep on this Sunday's show, because as you're about to find out, this one is going to be a banger.
There's a real buzz in the air. There's real anticipation. I just touched on now the controversial ending to that Southside Women's Championship match. We saw Sky Smithson intentionally get herself counted out in order to retain that championship. But we've done something about it here at Revolution Pro Wrestling, because this Sunday at the 229, it will be Hyan versus Dani Luna. And the winner of that match will get a shot at Sky Smithson's Southside Women's Championship at York Hall. Talk about the potential for an epic encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, the women's division, the picture is very unclear at the moment. Of course, we saw the re-emergence of the British Women's Champion, Alex Windsor, who's working very, very hard behind the scenes to get herself cleared to be back in action, of course, competing that unification bout. In the meantime, we've got Dani Luna and Hyan have emerged as the top contenders to Sky Smithson's Southside Women's Championship. I mean, Luna, so Hyan has a victory over Sky Smithson, which she hasn't forgotten about. Of course, she looked like she was on the verge of defeating Sky Smithson at our show last week in St. Neots, No Escape, but Smithson hightailed it out the building before re-emerging to clock her over the skull with that Southside Women's Championship belt before hitting the Smithson effect on the hard and unforgiving stage. So really, there's unfinished business between Smithson and Hyan. But also, when you talk about unfinished business, you've got to look towards Dani Luna, the former champion, who's yet to receive a rematch, who also holds a victory over Hyan in recent weeks. So no doubt has a claim to have a shot at that championship gold. So the best way we can figure this thing out is the two women are going to compete this Sunday. The winner of that contest will go on to compete against Sky Smithson Sunday, July the 9th, York Hall, Bethnal Green.
It really is an exciting time in the Rev Pro Women's division. I think you just surmised why. So many women have a claim to being the top of the division, but hopefully this will settle the dust once and for all. Moving up the card as well, we have a very exciting tag team encounter. We have the undisputed British Cruiserweight Champion Robbie X teaming with Luke Jacobs to take on Connor Mills and Wild Boar. Now, this is a first-time pairing, Connor Mills and Wild Boar, but could you pick two nastier, more aggressive, more vindictive people to put on the same side of the ring?
Yeah, I mean, their mentality when it comes to professional wrestling is very similar. One direction forward, one speed go. They're intense, hard hitting, nasty inside a ring. They have without a doubt got that killer instinct. And I think they complement each other perfectly. When you talk about a tag team, they may complement each other perfectly, but can they coexist as a tag team? Because one thing we know, when there's competitive divisions, there's a lot of egos involved. And to be the very best, you have to have a real ego. And there's not really room or sentiment for tag team partners, for friendships. Of course, that's what Connor Mills will tell you with his experiences with Michael Oku. Of course, we know Connor Mills is on a collision course, it seems, with the undisputed British Cruiserweight Champion Robbie X. Let's throw in the former Cruiserweight Champion, now heavyweight, Luke Jacobs, who's got an epic encounter on the horizon with Tom Lawler in, on July the 9th at York Hall, Bethnal Green. I think stylistically, seeing the way that Boar and Jacobs match up with each other is going to be very interesting, to say the least. I'm expecting fireworks. They're four world-class competitors. When you put them all in the ring together, you mix their styles. you know, it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be very intriguing to see the way it shakes out.
Yeah, you touched on that mix of styles there, and that's what we always say. Styles make matches. And speaking of styles, we say that a good wrestling card is like a buffet, a bit of everything. If you love world-class technical professional wrestling, a throwback to the old British style, then what are you doing if you aren't at the 229 this Sunday to watch James Mason versus Jordan Breaks? And this is an important matchup for Jordan Breaks because it's a tune-up ahead of his epic encounter with Zack Sabre Jr. at York Hall.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure we will talk about Michael Oku and the way he goes into contests. He has to have those tune-up matches. He feels like he needs to compete against the very best. Jordan Breaks feels exactly the same, but with the style of wrestling that Jordan Breaks does, you know, and the skill level, the skill set on the mat, that technical style of professional wrestling, is a lot lower risk than the high impact style Michael Oku often finds himself in. So yes, it is a tune-up, but it's a low risk tune-up for Jordan Breaks. But it's not to say it's going to be an easy night at the office for him, because when we talk about world-class technicians, James Mason is absolutely at the top of the list. It wouldn't surprise me if James Mason picks up the win in this contest and serves as almost a reality check to Jordan Breaks, you know, just 7 days shy of that epic encounter against Zack Sabre Jr. You know, I think it's very clear what we're going to see. We're going to see the old style, that game of human chess. You know, we're going to see hold and counter hold, and we are going to see world-class high-level technical wrestling, the way it was meant to be, or the way that, you know, that it was it originated in the UK, that, you know, that they'll be flying a flag for that British style of professional wrestling. I mean, professional wrestling these days is, you know, it's almost a perfect mix of styles. We say styles make matches. It's great to see contrasting styles, but at its very core, British wrestling was built on great technicians like James Mason and now Jordan Breaks. And I think this is going to be a fantastic advert for British professional wrestling. It's also going to be a fantastic taster for what's to come on July 9th at York Hall, Bethnal Green. And to be honest, I personally am looking forward to this one, perhaps more than any other match on this card. And that's saying something, because as you see, as we go up and down this card, it's just there's a fantastic array of styles between world-class athletes, and it's just going to be great. As we say time and time again, all killer and no filler at Rev Pro.
What an absolute treat that we're going to be able to get to see it up close and personal. But remember, as always, if for whatever reason you can't make it to the show to see it in person, you can watch it at revproondemand.com. We are live streaming our shows now, so you can watch it from the comfort of your seat as it will appear on demand. It's an absolute treat. And with a card like this, you're not going to want to miss it. Carrying on with our rundown, we have Trent Seven again in a Revolution Pro Wrestling ring, taking on the prize fighter Zack Knight. Now, Trent Seven's coming off a tremendously successful weekend in his return to Rev Pro. We saw him, of course, return in that 30-man Revolution Rumble, and then back-to-back singles victories, a big one over Michael Oku and then against Shigehiro Irie in Sheffield. And he's going up against Zack Knight, someone who has continued to impress but needs to get those all-important W's in the win column.
Yeah, I feel like Trent Seven, he made it clear, he said he's back, and he's got championship gold on his mind. He's just got a victory under his belt against the #1 contender to the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship, Michael Oku. It doesn't look like he's lost a step. He was, I guess, one of the more active competitors in that NXT UK bubble, and that's kept him, I guess, match fit. And he's a hard hitter. Obviously, he's pioneered his own style, that British strong style of professional wrestling, and he really, really feels like he's got a lot left to contribute, and he feels like this is perhaps his last chance to have that run for that elusive undisputed British Heavyweight Championship gold, and he is going to have a roadblock in form of the prize fighter Zack Knight stood in his way. And look, Trent Seven needs these victories. Trent Seven really wants that championship run more than anything, because he feels like he needs to prove something to himself. He feels like he needs to carve out a legacy. But when you talk about wanting to prove something, you need look no further than Zach Knight. You know, he is one of these always a bridesmaid, never the bride types. You know, he's documented his successes, his failures of, as happens, as is human nature, failures seem to get a lot more attention than successes. And in the past, his response to failures hasn't been the best. But in this latest run, and I call it that for a reason, because we've seen many iterations of Zach Knight over the years. And in this latest run, we've really seen a much more mature performer and a more diverse performer. And he's really able to learn from losses, and he gets stuck in. He's going in at the deep end each and every time. He could have some pick 'em fights to, you know, almost start to build their confidence, try and build the momentum. But each and every time he jumps in at the deep end, he goes against the very best. In Trent Seven, he's facing the very best. But as you alluded to, Gio, he can't afford to keep losing. It's almost make or break time for Zach Knight. It's a high pressure environment. And, you know, I can think of a few harder opponents to face when you've got your back against a wall than Trent Seven, especially someone as unorthodox as Trent Seven. But absolutely going to be a heavyweight war this Sunday in London.
It certainly is. And again, what a treat that our job is we get to watch these amazing matches up close. Moving up the card as well, we have Subculture versus Lycos Gym. Now, we know that Subculture will be challenging for the undisputed British Tag Team Championships at York Hall against the current champions, the Greedy Souls. But Lycos Gym, again, they're a team we spoke about. They've left these shenanigans behind. It's a new and improved Lycos Gym. However, heartbreak for them on Sunday as Kid Lycos 2 essentially left to wrestle a handicap match as Kid Lycos removed for the match on medical grounds. So they'll be really looking to bounce back with a win here against the #1 contenders.
Yeah, I don't think that's the way they predicted that contest against the Greedy Souls would go. Hats off to Kid Lycos 2 for gutting it out and you know, doing as well as he did in essentially a handicap match against the undisputed British Tag Team Champions. Lycos Gym, and you know, it was a real tough break for Lycos Gym, and that's why we've kind of, you know, afforded them the opportunity to go up against Subculture here, because they feel like they've got a point to prove as well. Subculture walking in, getting themselves an undisputed British Tag Team Championship match, mainly on the basis of the fact that, as the Greedy Souls have alluded to, is they've done such a good job as tag team champions that they've pretty much wiped out the tag team division to the extent that they're saying they're going to start lapping people soon. So that's a rallying call for teams around the whole of Europe, around the whole of the world, to step up to Danny Jones and Brendan White, the Greedy Souls. And that was a rallying call which was answered by Flash Morgan Webster, Mark Andrews, Subculture. And Subculture, they're not going to want to go into that undisputed British Tag Team Championship clash with the Greedy Souls without momentum on their side. For them, this contest is must win. To me, you're looking at two world-class teams, and I've said a lot how Lycos Gym on their day are up there with the best teams in this country, the best teams in Europe, the best teams in the world. And I strongly believe that. And I believe that what let them down in the past was that over-reliance on shenanigans. You know, just they do something great and then let themselves down time and time again. And now they've put that behind them, or they say they have. You know, I've got no reason not to believe them. All evidence suggests that's the course they're going. And it's finding them success everywhere they've been, you know, in the last few months. And I think that this is just another part of that redemption arc for the Lycos Gym. And, you know, of course, a victory over Subculture here. And look, as well, look, it may say on paper that the Greedy Souls defeated Lycos Gym, but we all know, everyone who saw it knows how that match went down. And I think a victory here over Subculture, it puts them right to the front of the line when it comes to getting another shot at those undisputed British Tag Team Championships. So a lot to play for in this tag team contest, which I'm sure is going to be very, very good.
2 world-class team, 4 world-class cruiserweights. Expect fireworks for sure. And carrying on with the fallout from live in Sheffield, we have Leon Slater going up against the new apprentice of the United Empire, Callum Newman. Now, anyone who saw on social media Will Ospreay live streaming that assault, that mugging of Leon Slater. So this one's going to cut deep. This one's going to be personal. This matchup at the 229.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to be a big contrast to the first meeting of the pair. And look, Callum Newman and Leon Slater, I think this is a match which is going to be repeated time and time again for years and years and years to come. I think there's an argument to say that these two men are the future of professional wrestling, not just in this country, but around the world. They're innovators in their style of professional wrestling. They're both so young, puppies with big paws, if you will. Sky's the limit to both these men. It's just the way they go about achieving and fulfilling their potential. Unfortunately, look, I can't blame Callum Newman for, and I guess, look, if we look back at this, Callum Newman's been following the advice of his mentor, Will Ospreay, since day one. And it was, of course, Will Ospreay's idea to pair Callum Newman up with JJ Gale during the pandemic. We saw how that team went for both of them, and both of them, I think, learned a lot of lessons in strengthening their weaknesses and highlighting their strengths as well, pairing up with one another. I think they complemented each other perfectly, but they made it clear that they really have aspirations as singles professional wrestlers, and perhaps things weren't going Callum Newman's way. But recently, we have seen a change of attitude from Newman. He's in much better condition than he's been in the past. And I think it's that early success that JJ Gale had in the split of the team, which has almost spurred him on to be where he is right now. And we saw him pick up that win against JJ Gale in Southampton. And then we saw the real measuring stick to see how close he's come, or how much of a gap he's closed between himself and his mentor, Will Ospreay in Sheffield. And we see he has closed that gap quite significantly since they last met. And bearing in mind, all Will Ospreay's done since that time is improved drastically. So the gains that Callum Newman has made in that time cannot be understated. And of course, he's got more experience than Slater. But, you know, this one's a lot more personal now for Leon Slater. The mugging, the blindside attack from his friend, a man he thought he was his friend, and a man who, you know, you talk about Ospreay and Newman, it's a mirror match for each other. And we know that Leon Slater's fighting Will Ospreay at York Hall, Bethnal Green on July the 9th. So this is the perfect opportunity for Leon Slater to simulate wrestling Will Ospreay, because really Callum Newman is a I don't want to say it's a Will Ospreay simulation. That sounds a bit crazy, but you know, he is, you can make the argument, the next Will Ospreay. You know, he knows Will Ospreay's tricks inside out, and he will no doubt be employing some of them in this contest with Leon Slater. So great preparation for Leon Slater ahead of July 9th's epic encounter. But I can't stress enough just how spectacular this match could well be. And we are going to learn a lot about Leon Slater. Can he control those emotions? It's another part of professional wrestling that we've not had to see from Leon Slater before. And we're about to see another side of his personality. How will he respond this Sunday against Callum Newman?
Well, from one personal matchup to another, and arguably the most personal feud going on in Revolution Pro Wrestling right now, Michael Oku going one-on-one with Leighton Buzzard. Not the first time they've gone one-on-one in the 229, but with the events that have transpired since that last encounter, the post-match assaults, the putting his hands on a mirror, the blinding of Michael Oku by stabbing in the eye with a stiletto, it's all going to come head-to-head at the 229, and I think we're going to have some extra referees and some extra contenders on standby.
Yeah, I mean, it's our main event of the evening for a reason. Two world-class professional wrestlers, Michael Oku, #1 contender. It's the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship, just 7 days shy from that huge date with Destiny against the Dominator, Great-O-Khan. Have a rest, not Michael Oku's style. You know, he goes all in, and, you know, he's going to be doing that. He's got a severely compromised eye. Of course, we saw the heel go into the eye in Sheffield. We saw Will Caven working over the eye in St. Neots. You know, Leighton Buzzard knows that weakness emphatically. Leighton Buzzard, this all started when Leighton Buzzard tried to make a name off of Michael Oku's back after trying to make a name off of Will Ospreay's back. And if you remember, you know, Michael Oku said people were still talking about his match to this day, and the Leighton Buzzard Will Ospreay contest the next day was simply a Monday. And Leighton Buzzard retaliated by saying, the difference between me and you, Michael, is I left the ring with his respect and my head held high, and you left lying on your back. And one thing that Leighton Buzzard has been doing time and time again here in Rev Pro is walking away with his head held high. He did it last month at the 229, same match, Oku victorious, but Leighton Buzzard earned Michael Oku's respect, and he left that contest with his head held high. And Michael Oku, thanks to that double cross, left laying. And we saw them pick up the tag team victory. We saw Buzzard cost Oku a match against Trent Seven. We saw Buzzard defeat Michael Oku's young protege, Cameron Kai, and continue the beatdown after the match. This one is very personal between the two of them. And Michael Oku is such a hard one for him because he needs to stay focused on Leighton Buzzard, but he needs to not lose sight of the ultimate goal, which is becoming the first ever Grand Slam winner in Revolution Pro Wrestling, and defeating the Dominator Great-O-Khan and ending that undefeated streak that spans 5 years now in Revolution Pro Wrestling. So this is, I don't know, you know, like I question Michael Oku all the time, but he essentially has a run of doing what he wants in the lead up to his, you know, these big contests, because ultimately no one knows his body better than him. And he feels his best way to prepare is by staying match fit always. And the mentality is the higher level of competition you compete against, the higher level you yourself can compete against. So listen, it's perhaps a smart strategy if he can get away from this contest relatively unscathed, and bring some momentum into that match with a Dominator Great-O-Khan. But let's not underestimate El Capitan Leighton Buzzard. He is not here to make up the numbers. He's here to make an impact, and that's what he's been doing since day one. And I don't think this Sunday is going to be any different whatsoever. This is a huge match for both men, and future repercussions for both men's singles careers. And you know, it's going to be one that you are going to want to witness live. Look, it's fantastic being able to watch on RevProOnDemand.com if you can't be there live. It's fantastic reliving these moments, but you know, there's intricacies that you can only pick up live. There's an atmosphere like none other that you can only see live. So if you can make it to this show, I can't stress enough, then absolutely go out of your way to do it, because I'm sure you can see from every match that we've run down, there's something compelling in nature about every single one, a diversity of different styles, something for everyone. And to me, this is going to be a show not to be missed.
Absolutely. 7 incredible matches, each one with ramifications for Epic Encounter at York Hall, which will in turn have ramifications for our huge 12-year anniversary show at the Copper Box.
11.
So much.
Your aginess.
On August 26th. So much not to miss at Revolution Pro Wrestling. But as Andy said, if you can't be there in person, which is the best way to see it, the second best way is to catch it on RevProOnDemand.com. See it live as it's happening. We're really proud of what we've been able to do with the streaming service. We're continuing to improve it, and the fact that we can now bring you the shows live is just the next step in the evolution of pro wrestling at its best.
Absolutely. We're continuing to grow. This Sunday is just the next chapter in that. And obviously, as you said, Gio, I hope that people can see the work we're putting in to the on-demand service, the live streaming aspect. Listen, all I can say is thank you everyone for your support. We hope you can support us again this Sunday at the 229 and the events further down in the summer. You know, you're all a part of this journey. Let's grow together. Let's keep moving forward together. And let's just do it for the love of professional wrestling, because, you know, I honestly, sincerely believe there's no art form, no entertainment, no sport quite like it. Anyone who's been will be able to attest to that fact. You know, we are in a wonderful time for professional wrestling right now. Even if we don't realize it right now, trust me, we'll be looking back on these days in years to come and seeing how lucky we were. And like I say, the next part of that journey this Sunday, live from a 229, and we hope that you can join us.
As always, thank you so much for your time, Andy, and I'll see you and everyone else this Sunday at the 229.